And we are recording. Welcome to the evening of Python coding. I am pleased to that people still come to this meetup after more than 10 years, actually 11 years now. So today we have with us Shaznay Sison, and she's going to show us some new and fascinating AI stuff in something called Brain. But it's better that she is explained, and she'll tell you what her background is. Go ahead, Shaznay.
Hi everybody, I'm Shaznay Sison. I'm a full stack systems engineer. I currently work as a founding engineer or technical lead for a hedge fund. I'm also the founder of my own software studio right now, where the software studio is a one-person software studio, and Brain is actually essentially our workflow, my workflow kernel or my builder. And currently, I also work as a contractor for a for a defense government company, where I work as a full stack engineer. So, what exactly is Grain, and essentially why did I build it in the first place? So, I actually built this a few months ago when agent command lines first came out. What was going on was I was essentially using agents, both Codex and Claude Code, and what was happening was tokens were being used up pretty fast. I was burning through tokens within the middle of the week. I was also outputting a lot of code without being able to really verify the job, verify the code, etc. So I created Grain, where essentially it's a deterministic workflow. Um, some of the concepts for Grain also came from DevOps, from software life cycles, etc. So it's a PyPy project, and then you can install it using UV tool install GrainKit, or you could also install it using pip install GrainKit. So I specifically wanted a UV tool one so that the tool is universal for the whole machine. And so what you can do with Grain is essentially this. You open it in a repo, and in that specific repo, you initialize Grain. You will do a Grain init, and then after you do a Grain init, you'll be doing a Grain onboarding. And what it does is essentially it'll scaffold all the files that you'll need for agentic development. And then from there you'll have all the docs you need, and it'll create a backlog of tasks as well. And then you can go ahead and just keep doing the task one by one, and all tasks will be done by the agents as well. And so I created specifically a command line tool. So you must be wondering, right? For an agent tool, there's MCPs and whatnot, but I specifically went for a command line tool because a command line tool is actually very much so accessible to an agent. So I started off with a command line tool, and then from there, I kind of like just will be creating MCPs as well on top of it. And actually, the way I created Brain is I actually dog fooded the concept of the workflow itself. The way I created it in the beginning was just dog fooding the workflow over and over and over again until I just iterate again and again. So the main thing is that you're not letting the agent go crazy. What you're trying to do is there will be human gates, there will be review gates, close gates, etc. Like and then you'll also know what's next for your workflow, so that you're not lost when it comes to agentic coding or agentic development. Because the thing with agentic development is that it's moving very fast, and not just that, there are multiple times when you're working on 2-3 different projects, having like 2-3 different agentic conversations. So I will be showing okay, so the way it works is each task, as you saw a while ago, there were tasks, and each task comes in a task packet. And I'll be showing the task packets later on. And each task packet comes with context of what the agent needs to create to do the task. It comes with a deliverable spec to actually know what is done, what is considered success for this task. And then the agent will be executing it, and then the agent can also review it, but the human can also review it as well. So it's all up to you of how hands-on or hands-off you want to be with your workflow. So I've seen people do it where they're very like hands-on with the review, but I've also seen it where people are, they just let the agent do its own thing. And that's still possible because with the review gates, there's a bunch of tests involved. And then when you're satisfied with the task, you can go ahead and just close the task and it'll move on to the next workflow item. And so one other thing is that I first created this for coding, but I realized that this can actually be done for anything agentic workflow wise. It can be done for anything that uses an agent for workflow. So I've done so Grain has a bunch of adapters, and that's how it kind of like works, right? You can have a front end adapter, you can have a back end adapter, a data acquisition kind of adapter, because I also do a bunch of crawling and scraping, have my own data lake and whatnot. And so a spreadsheet adapter, a docx adapter, right? So the idea is that you can use this for any workflow that essentially uses agents. And I actually use this workflow to create my company documents as well. And then so it is file system first because it's very important for me that everything is reviewable, can be seen by the developer. There's nothing hidden. There's no hidden like bots, no hidden databases, there's no SQLite, no nothing. It's all very much so seeable within your repo. And the thing is, if you actually look at the repo, I can go ahead, I'll be showing the repo in a bit, Grain repo itself, so you'll see what I mean by the dog fooding of it all. And one other thing is that this is very much so agent agnostic. The idea is that you initialize Grain in your project. You have all the context that you need through Grain. You've created all your context, all your docs, all your backlog tasks. And from there, you can give this literally to Codex, to Claude, to OpenLLM, whatever agent you have, and it'll help you develop your project. So I'll go ahead and also show the source itself. So this is the source, and as you can see, this docs and task, these ones are all Grain items. When you do a Grain init, docs, tasks, templates, prompts, etc., will all be seeded. So the way I created Grain in the first place would be how it would be for a real project, or how a real project would look like if they did use Grain. So I'll go ahead and show the real project now. Let me just go ahead and so you can go ahead and type Grain help, and just like that, it shows everything, right? So the way I'll show it to you first is how we will use Grain manually. But the way I created Grain is for this to be a tool for agents. So yes, this one's, you can see this all, you can check this all out, but I will be showing you how you would use this with Claude or with Codex itself, because that is how I've kind of intended for Grain to be used. As I mentioned a while ago, I have other Python projects, other command line projects. And essentially what I've been doing is I've been creating a bunch of tools, either command lines, MCPs, whatever it is. And all of these tools are all agent usable. And so Grain is essentially one of them, and Grain is the builder, or kind of like the workflow kernel for everything. So I have like an assay, or I have like a verifier, I have like you know, a tool for like data acquisition, etc. So we'll go ahead and try it with a specific platform right here. So as you see, okay, we'll go ahead and do a grain init. And as you can see, as soon as you did a grain init, it created the docs, it created the tasks, source, tests, templates, basically everything that you need, right? And you're trying to probably thinking, what is exactly canonical, what is working, and whatnot. So the docs part is pretty important because any essentially all the docs in canonical cannot be touched by the agent. Like, yes, it can be touched by the agent, but it needs human approval, it needs real human approval, while the working docs are all docs that it's essentially like the agent's kind of like working directory. So if you see, there's nothing yet, but this is how it would look like. And it's all MD files. And so what it does when you do a grain init is grain checks out your whole repo and it'll show, hey, what's the next steps, right? And then any change proposals, like so these are all templates for now. And these ones will all be stubbed by the agent. And so what we can do next as well is, now that we've initialized, we can check what's next for our workflow, right? And it's going to say this one. And then so from there, you can keep on saying grain workflow next to just keep on going until you essentially go from phase to phase, task to task, and whatnot. And then let me just show you how it would be if, let's say, we create a task, right? Let's say, sorry, just give me a minute. So if we create a task, it would just be like this. Grain task, create, phase 1, task number 1, and then you do the title. But as I mentioned before, this is how it would all be done manually, right? I will be showing how it would be with an agent because the whole point is for you to be using this with an agent. And yeah, just like that, essentially the task will be created as well. Let me just check it real quick. So right there, as you can see, the task is created. There's the context document, the deliverable spec, the plan, what the task is, etc. So all those docs will also be stubbed or filled up by the agent. And then from there, the agent will be given this task context, right? And from there, it can do the task. And this is what I mean by you can give this to any agent, because essentially, as long as these things are filled up, any agent that you give this to will have all the context it needs. And so the parser that Grain is using is specifically tree sitter. I specifically use tree sitter from this one repo I saw, which is Graphify. And basically what the tree sitter does is it parses through your code base, and it chooses specific lines, not just specific files, but sometimes specific lines as well. So that also lets the agent use less tokens and whatnot. And so now I will actually show how to use this with either or Claude Codex. It'll be the same. So you can go ahead and say you have access to Grain command line for this repo. Let's keep going with the workflow. Or what's next? Am I done onboarding? Right? And just need a few seconds. So as you can see, it's using grain right there. So this is what I mean of how a while ago I showed you you have to like type it and stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. I've actually seen people do that, but I've intended for it to be used this specific way. And the way it works is that um, the agents can use the whole commands. They'll know the format that's needed. They'll know the exact JSON, etc. that's needed as well. So now it's looking what's next in the workflow, right? As I showed you a while ago, when I did a grain workflow next, now it's doing its own thing. And it has access to the prompts and whatnot. So now it's looking at the task, it's looking at what's the current task, the current focus, and these are all stub currently. So the idea is that Claude will be the one to, or the agent will be the one to also fill up your docs and whatnot. But you can also do it manually as well. That's the whole point of it being MD docs, so that it's easy for you as well to edit it. And as you can see, so what it'll do is it'll basically read what's going on in the repo, and then from there it'll stub all the documents. So we just need a few seconds for it. And each step needs to be validated, as you can see. So this is what I mean of like, so that the agent doesn't kind of run amok and also has specific templates or specific formats needed. So this is where it is. So it wants to finish the onboarding docs and finish phase task one. And then it's asking for the scope. And then we'll just go for that. And then from there, we can look at what it actually created for these ones. So basically, the idea is that Grain scaffolds everything that your agent needs so that you'll actually have a good software development lifecycle, or just a good development lifecycle for your projects that uses agents. So as you can see right there, there's Grain validate, task validate, there's a workflow guard. Um, So we'll see if it starts filling up any of this soon. But so right now it's still filling it up, but essentially the idea is that everything will just be there. And then the pretty cool thing as well is the change proposals and open questions. Essentially, right, as I said, the agent will look all over your repo, and then it might surface, hey, this is a change proposal that I want for your project, right? Or hey, what's an open question about this project, etc. And there it is. So now it's creating these ones specifically. Let's see if any of them are already done. That's it. Okay. And yeah. So as you can see, it's basically stubbing it all. And then from there, right, you can, let's say, use like a high level model for the stubbing of everything. You could use like Fable or Opus for like actually the planning part, but then the implementation part you can use like Codex, or you can use like an open LLM or whatever it is. Mm. And so everything, as I said, is guarded with something. It'll tell the agent, hey, this is required, this is needed. And as you can see there, it's creating the task. Yeah. It's already creating task two. So let's go ahead and see how some of this look like. Yes. And then another thing as well is I actually have a tooling notes as well. So the agent also, if it runs into any friction with grain, it actually lists it down automatically in tooling notes, and I actually get sent an issue for that as well. So essentially, what it is that um, the idea is that the agent should know everything just from you giving grain repo. And there's the implementation plan, current focus, and it's already saying. Yeah, and so this is actually how I've essentially built up monorepos. I've built monorepos using this. I've built multiple apps using this. I've also done company docs using this. Uh, and there. So everything that's needed is where for what's acceptable.
Shaznay,
Mm-hmm.
that's your question. If you're going in this direction, is before you go on. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so um, when you're using it, what's the main difference between using it within Claude or using Claude alone? Like what's the feel that the user get that doesn't do it otherwise?
So right, you might be thinking this might be over engineering, right? And that might be the case for a lot of people.
I
But
have a question. I know I have an opinion. You give the answer.
Uh, for me, what I've noticed with agentic coding is that it does go off the rails, even if you sometimes give it prompts, even if you give it as much context as you want. Unfortunately, it still does go off the rails, especially when you kind of rely on like just one huge memory MD or just one huge like agents.md or cloud.md. So what it essentially does, right? For example, if you go on like some of these tasks, it says specifically which hey, you need to load these before you do a task. This is the one you need for and then it says source files, right? So hey, you need to look at this. So what you're trying to say is you're trying to essentially um be able to observe uh the agent, be able to see what it's doing, right? Because a lot of people, they're creating amazing things, but do they know how to reproduce it? Do they know how to essentially kind of like um you know so the idea is that this is reproducible as well. If you stick with the backlogs with the task, then you can reproduce this whole app with a different agent, right? If you kind of like just have everything on there as well. So that's also one thing. The idea is being able to observe what's actually going on, be able to control what's going on without being a slave to the agent, just being like saying yes, yes, yes to everything without really knowing like what it's touching. So that was one of the main reasons I also created this.
Okay. Do you want to show more, or
I
we're
think
waiting for
that
something?
I think that actually does cover a lot of it, but I did want to show kind of like how um here, let me just sorry. I did want to show how an actual like let me just show you my document. So this is my my own companies. Like I'm literally showing you guys my companies documents, my labs, my infra, etc. And the infra is the most important one because everything is essentially here, but this is how it would look like if you're actually really using this. As you can see, I have multiple, a lot of empty files. All of this are all just as you, and this dictates everything within my company, and I don't have to keep on copy pasting whatever it is. I don't have to keep on explaining to the repo what it is, right? I could literally just go on Claude and be like, what is Diwata, and it would know already what it is just from my code infra, because it's all there already, and they'll know already. Essentially what it is it's kind of like a knowledge for your knowledge layer for your project, or a knowledge management manager for your project essentially.
I would say it's a path to follow.
Yes, exactly. And then a pretty cool thing as well is the docs manifest, because from the docs manifest it shows, like, if you have a branch policy and whatnot, what exactly is each document, right? And it's the same thing for the Acme platform I showed you a while ago. It's just that it wasn't as what's it called, as rich in context. So that's why I'm showing my own company's thing. So as you can see there, the business plan, etc., all right there. And all of this is accessible to the agent. They just look at the manifest, and just by looking at the manifest they already have an idea of which document is needed.
Hmm. Okay.
Mhm.
So I get. Thank you for showing us this. We don't have to go inside your trade secrets yet. It's all becoming put in on YouTube. But now we understand better what grain is. Does anyone have any questions other than me?
Mhm.
Let's see if there's something in the chat. No, I don't see. Um, Guys, it's your time. You're welcome to ask questions. Well, I see that there are no more questions. So, uh, Shazli, let me ask you one more question. Perhaps someone else will, with their appetite, they'll ask more.
Mhm.
Um, when you, what are your next plans for grain, or what are you going to do with it in the future? Like, what's your development plans? How it will evolve?
So I actually created my own ticketing system. I created my own little ticketing system, and for all my projects and all my clients as well, because I have contracting work with other clients and stuff. So essentially, what I've done is I've created a few MCPs, and I've also integrated it to my ticketing system so that every time a ticket gets sent, it actually automatically creates a grain packet or a grain task packet for an agent to do. So what I've essentially am trying to do is automate my work using Grain as one of the main main architecture or main backbone, right? And I've also been using this as a sort of workflow kernel for my other for within my other projects, where basically the workflow can all be done by the agent, right? All gated, etc. But it's not just through the command line. So as you can see, I actually created a new ones, Grain Core and Grain Contracts. And these ones, it just extracts the very main thing of Grain without the parser, the tree sitter I've talked about and whatnot. It's basically just the workflow stepper and whatnot. So I'll be able to use it within like a different platform, if that makes sense.
Kind of. So I see that you're building your entire business around grain.
Yeah, so Grain is just one of them, as I mentioned before. So Grain is just one of them. Say this item is my verification tool that I've mentioned about. where essentially it is the one, and I know it says AGPL, but I will be changing a few of these. But so Assay is my verification tool, like kind of my ticketing, my bug tool, while Grain is the builder because it needs to be kind of like a different tool for, because they have their different purposes. And then this one is just a telemetry because I have like telemetry needed. And then this one is my data acquisition layer, that's provenance first, because I'm planning on doing a bunch of ingress pipelines soon. So essentially, right, if you add all of this together, it's basically a toolkit for an agent, right? An agent can essentially scrape, and then the scraping could be just one part of the workflow of Brain, right? So one part of the workflow is just implementing, and then one part is the acquisition, etc. So it's kind of like that. So I've just been kind of creating my own little toolkit for my own agent.
Interesting. You want people to join you in this project, or are you planning just to release it so they can take it, or do you want people to help you build it?
So for grains specifically, I actually have it as open source. And one of the main things I've been doing as well is, as I mentioned, the adapters. And what I plan on doing is having like a whole community adapter thing. I've created my own adapters, which I've mentioned, which is for spreadsheets, documents, and code, right? But for in the future, I would like other people. This is also why I'm not just looking for coders. I'm looking for essentially anybody that's using agent command lines. I need somebody who's not even a coder, to use it, because I want to see how like a non-coder will use it. Because the idea is that you can just give this to an agent, and it could be for vibe coders. Um, and so I would like to have like an adapter community where people can just keep on creating their adapters. I've created an Obsidian adapter as well because I use Obsidian quite a bit and whatnot. So there's a few things where I'm trying to take this essentially. I'm trying to find the adapter part. Okay, here. So this is the adapter part of it all. So as you can see,
Can you make
front
it bigger? A little
hmm?
bit? The text bigger.
Oh, yeah, of course. So these are the main ones. I created these ones first because these are the ones I do specifically. I do a lot of full stack front end code. I use Obsidian. And as I mentioned, I do a bunch of crawling as well. One of my people that I know uses spreadsheets a lot, so that's why I also wanted to create these ones. Because I needed to see how it would look on a different file, not just like code file. So these are the official ones that I've made, but in the future, the idea is that hopefully there will be a community one.
Okay, so you're open for contributions. Okay.
Yes.
Hopefully,
Uh,
more people will see the video and contact you because of it. If someone wants to contact you, what's the best way?
um, email or LinkedIn is also fine.
Okay,
I can go ahead and, well, I guess I don't know if this is still recording. I,
you're still recording. You don't have to
okay,
show it.
okay. I can go ahead and just send my LinkedIn in the chat. Yeah,
Yeah.
so there's a contributing part of it. And as I said, people are feel free to do like an issue and whatnot. So there's a bunch of it's all open source.
Okay. Anyone has any more questions?
Mhm.
Okay. I see your LinkedIn. So if someone wants to contact you, good. Um, anyone any questions? Questions going once?
Oh, this is another thing I want to show as well. It's pretty nice to add the task in your commits. So it's very easy to kind of like point out what you've done, right? So here's a task right here. This is a commit. and it says specifically, oh, this commit is for phase, as you can see, phase 31, task 1. And then from there, you can just go to your docs. So this is what I mean of it being reproducible, and you're being able to view everything.
Okay. So anyone, any more questions? Going twice? Questions going 3 times? Oh, no more questions apparently. So Shaznay, thank you very much. And we're going to stop the recording. Don't go away. We haven't finished yet this meeting. So
Yeah, very open.